Hey, what's up? Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Elena if you're new here. Today we are talking about how to get more done with batching. You're likely familiar with this productivity tip already, but just in case, batching is basically when you take similar tasks and batch them and do them at the same time to save on time, energy, and mental capacity. It's a simple idea, but beyond a few basics, it can actually sometimes be challenging to know how exactly to apply this to your life. So I wanted to get your creative juices flowing by offering 9 ways that you can use batching in your work. Let's get into it. Number 1 is by department. Basically, you would batch the work that you have to do into departments the way it might be done at a large corporation. So things like IT, finance, admin, marketing. Obviously, this makes the most sense if you yourself are an entrepreneur, a business owner, or even if you work for maybe a smaller company and you kind of wear a lot of hats and have a lot of different responsibilities. But even if not, you can also apply this to your personal home life by doing something like Finance Fridays to go through your finances, or Money Mondays if you'd rather do it on a Monday. You don't have to name them that way, I just think it's more fun. Or designating a certain time or day of the week to do all of your more administrative kind of tasks. This really helps you kind of get a handle on one part of your life or your work in one go and makes you feel a lot less scattered. Number 2 is to batch by workflow stage. By taking a longer task that you do on a reoccurring basis or maybe multiple times, you could take that longer task, chop it up into its different stages, and then batch stage by stage as opposed to completing the task fully from start to finish. So for example, if I were to apply this to these YouTube videos, instead of sitting down, coming up with an idea, writing and scripting, and then filming, and then editing, and then doing all my SEO and writing the description, etc., I could instead sit down and come up with a bunch of ideas at one time. Or like today, sit down and film more than just one video at a time. So at the end of that batching session, you haven't fully completed the full task, but you have done a chunk of it many times so that you can then move on to the next chunk. Number 3 is to batch by frame of mind. Now this really depends on your own mind, everyone's a little different, but basically you would be batching based on the kind of frame of mind or mindset that you would benefit from most when doing those types of tasks. So often for this one, I like to consider things like, do I need to be in a more analytical mode, more kind of like left-brained, or in a more creative, flowy mood? If you have more creative tasks, more artsy tasks, graphic design tasks, things like that, you can sit down and kind of spend an afternoon doing that type of work, and then maybe spend another afternoon doing some more analytical type of work, or work that requires you to crunch some numbers or do other kinds of things. Number 4, you can batch by thinking versus doing tasks. So take a look at your work tasks and consider which of them require you to sit down and do some kind of deeper thinking, and which ones are more so just kind of execution based that you can easily kind of work through and tick them all off. If you are a business owner or entrepreneur, this can also be thought of as working in your business versus on your business. So in your business being the service provider, the person doing the thing almost as an employee, versus on your business as the CEO from that big picture perspective, planning out, strategizing, looking into the future, that kind of stuff. If you're using it more personally, if you've ever seen those videos or people doing kind of like plan with me things where they sit down and plan out a whole month ahead of time, that's an example of batching those thinking tasks of planning, thinking ahead, looking at your calendar, things like that. Number 5 is to batch by time required. So basically batching tasks based on how long it'll take you to complete them. This is mostly helpful and most used for those kind of shorter, smaller tasks, things that take 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, the things that are kind of so small that you almost feel silly scheduling them in somewhere because it's really not that big of a task, but because we don't have anywhere to schedule them, we often forget about them and they get pushed to the side and deprioritized. I like to sometimes do something called a power hour where I will batch a bunch of these small 5, 10, 15-minute tasks together into that 1 hour and just power through them all as much as I can. So that'll include things like quick errands or making phone calls or doing some kind of small updates or just cleaning out your emails. You can also apply power hour at home for home tasks, things like folding laundry or doing a quick clean, giving yourself 30 minutes or 60 minutes and saying how much cleaning can I get done and then powering through it. Number 6 is to batch by resources required. So you could batch tasks based on the tools, programs, resources, any kind of physical setup that might be required for you to complete that task. So for example, if you need to take a bunch of photos for Instagram, for example, if that's part of what you do, then it makes a lot more sense to kind of give yourself a little bit of a photo shoot day, make sure your cameras are charged, maybe set up or stage certain shots, etc. Get a bunch of videos done for future reels or TikToks, or maybe you have a hobby that is more creative. Maybe it's something like painting, or if you're doing woodworking, pottery, where you need to really kind of bring out all of your equipment. Batching the tasks that require that specific equipment to be out. Meal prepping is a good example. If you're taking out a blender and a slow cooker and whatever else, I don't meal prep, but it's a great way to decrease the kind of setup and tear down time that you would need outside of doing the task itself. Number 7 is to batch by brain power levels, batching your work depending on how much brain power you're going to need to complete it. As I'm sure you've noticed, brain power does fluctuate throughout the day. Maybe you're kind of more alert and ready to go first thing in the morning, maybe your afternoons are better, maybe your evenings are better. It's different for everyone, and it doesn't really matter what time you actually choose, but it matters that you know and understand yourself and how your brain power fluctuates. And what I personally love doing is batching my most difficult, strenuous, or annoying tasks that I just don't want to do early in the morning, because that's when I know I'm going to have the most discipline and follow through to actually complete them and the energy to do it well. Similarly, if there are tasks that I know require pretty low levels of energy or brain power, then I can batch those tasks together and schedule them. For me, for example, it would be in the afternoon when my brain is feeling a little slower, a little less focused, and that way I know I'm kind of still getting stuff done, but I'm not trying to do my hardest, most difficult things when my brain is just not there. You can also use this not just for your daily schedule, but also your weekly schedule. For example, I know that on Mondays, I'm actually the most productive, kind of fresh out of the weekend, and I can power through a lot of things and get them done pretty quickly compared to a Friday when I'm already kind of halfway out the door. But I've also met people where it's the opposite. It takes them time to kind of get into the work week again, and then Thursday, Friday, they're actually the most productive. So it's just about knowing yourself and making sure you schedule accordingly. Number 8 is to batch by social interaction levels. Now, if you are naturally really social and extroverted, then maybe this one won't apply as much for you, but for us introverts, it can be really helpful. You can consider batching social interactions kind of close together or grouping them together within a certain day or time so that you can properly prepare your energy for those interactions, and then also know that you're going to have some kind of recovery alone time afterwards. So for example, if you're doing client calls or meetings, then you can try to schedule them on the same afternoon or on the same day of the week so that you're going into that chunk of time knowing that you are turning on social mode, and then you also know you're going to have days where you are not seeing anyone and you just can be chill and relaxed and not worry about having to bring out your social persona. I'm realizing how weird this probably sounds to people who are like naturally social and extroverted. We're not all like that though. So yes, for some of us, it is helpful to plan and prepare for our social interactions. Number 9, batch by any theme of your choice. This is your invitation to get imaginative, get creative, think about what overarching themes make sense for your life. What are the reoccurring similarities in different tasks that you have, whether that's in life or in business. For example, having kind of a cleaning and organization day, a self-care day is an example of batching, or also a catch-up day. I don't know if you ever had this in school, but sometimes teachers would have these catch-up days, and obviously it's a play on words because it has nothing to do with, you know, catch up, but it's for catching up on all of the assignments or homework or projects or whatever. So why not give yourself a catch-up day, whether that's at work or at home? So those are 9 ways to batch your work. I would love to hear which of these stood out most to you, if they gave you any ideas. If you came up with your own ways to batch some of the things in your life, make sure to let us know in the comments below. I would be so curious just to hear what you've come up with, and I'm sure other people watching this video would be too. If you're looking for more productivity tips and mindset shifts about this kind of stuff, I would highly recommend checking out my productivity playlist. I'm gonna link it up on the screen here somewhere. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I appreciate you being here, and I will see you again next week. Bye.